As I'm leaving my oldest son's father's house, I got the boys in the car, and of course the boys asking questions, what's going on, and it's when I break the news to them that I'm divorcing their mother. Of course, they didn't take the news well, and of course they asked why. And me still being in my feelings, I did tell the boys, I said, well, mommy kissed another man, and you're not supposed to do that when you're married to somebody. So they were upset. They didn't want us to get a divorce. They wanted us to stay together, but I told them that's not happening. So we get home, the boys are still upset, so I made the decision that they're not going to go to school tomorrow. Decided to keep them home so we could talk about it and just see where things needed to go from there to make sure they were okay emotionally. They go to sleep. They all slept in a room with me. And then when I wake up in the morning, the police are knocking on my door to arrest me. I let them know I have kids here. I asked if I can call somebody so they can look after the kids. They allowed me to do that. So I called my oldest son's father and let him know, like, hey, they're here to get me, to take me downtown, and I need someone to look at the kids. And his wife said, all right, we're on the way as soon as we can. So I hang up with them. Time's going on, and we're waiting for them to get there. I asked officers, if I could go talk to my oldest son, let them know I'm going, because I did let him know that because of what his mother said, that I was going to have to probably go to jail, just didn't know when. So I went and talked to him. The police officer was right behind me, and I let him know, like, hey, the police are here to take me. I don't know what's going to happen, but just know I'm going to do whatever I have to do to get back to y'all as soon as I can. And he said, okay, and then he just stayed in the bed with his brothers. The police told me that his father was taking too long to get there, so I called my coworker, who I've been working with for the past, at the time, eight years. She immediately left work, came out here, and sat with the kids, and she watched as the police took me away. Before I even got out, I called my mom and told my mom, like, yeah, they said I can't come back home and that I can't have contact with the kid's mom. That part didn't bother me at all because I didn't want to talk to her at all. And of course they said, I couldn't have my firearms. So my mom went ahead and removed my firearms from the house, packed some clothes up for me and the boys, and my coworker drove me to my street, and my mom met me at the end of the street away from my house with my boys and our clothes, and we were going to go stay with one of my relatives. But before we went there, that's when my oldest son's father called me and told me that he heard from the kid's mom and that she was at the bus station. I'm like, well, what's going on now? And she told him that she was going to North Carolina in fear for her life, that now she's saying that I beat her with the gun and threatened to kill her. So I go to his house, and he's telling me everything that's happening, and he calls her. He calls her on the phone, and she has no idea I'm there, but I'm listening to the conversation, has her on speaker, and we're recording the conversation, and this is the first time I hear her say now that I supposedly beat her with the gun. And so I'm just on the other side of the phone listening to these lies and just trying to wrap my head around, this isn't the person I married. This is not who she presented to me. I can't even say this isn't the person she presented to me. This is not the person she presented that she would do this to me. I cannot say that I have not seen her manipulate a story where she appears as the victim when she has done something wrong. I have watched her do that with a set of friends, so I just thought it wouldn't happen to me. So the next few days, I stay with my family member, still taking the kids to school. I go to the doctor. I get checked after finding out that when I had her phone, I found that she was involved with somebody else along with the other guy I found out. So I went to the doctor. I got myself checked out, make sure I didn't have anything. And then when COVID hit, I believe like on the 15th of March, I took my oldest son back to his father's house. In between that time, their mother was still texting me, especially after the 14th, because that's when the protective order from Suffolk had lifted. And she would text me and ask to talk to the kids. I would let her talk to the kids. I have the kids call from my phone. I'm back in the house at this point. And whenever she would text me to ask to talk to the kids, I would have the kids call from my phone, and I would use my other phone to record the kids talking to her, just in case she were to say something like I said something to her on the phone that was threatening, so I could show the police that she's lying. And that went on from the 14th all the way up to the 19th of March. In between that time, I would even tell her, I'm like, hey, stop texting me. I'll make sure the kids will call you. I mean, you've made things, bad enough by lying on me. She was saying she would say that I was lying, and I'm like, I never pulled a gun on you. And she's like, yeah, you did. And I'm like, no, I emptied the mag and tossed it near you. And she said, no, you put the gun to me, then you tossed the gun. That made no sense to me. I'm like, I'm not going to threaten somebody with a weapon and then give them the weapon. I did not know that while she was in North Carolina for 2 weeks, she filed another protective order against me. This time changing the story that I beat her with the gun and threatened the kids. I was not aware that she did this until the 20th of March, and she had supposedly did this on the 16th. Once I got the protective order on the 20th, I cut off all communication with her. I couldn't even let the kids talk to her because I feel like if my phone number popped up on her caller ID, she'd go to the police and say, look, he called me, and then she'd try to have me arrested. So that happened on the 20th. She came back to Virginia on the 22nd of March, and she didn't come to me. She didn't come to my house. She didn't call me. She went to her oldest son's father's house where her oldest son was at, attempting to get him. From what I was told, she called them and she said, hey, I'll be there in 2 hours. And then they said like in 10, 15 minutes she was pulling up. As soon as she got there, my oldest son's stepmother called me and said, she's here. What should we do? I said, just record her, because I don't care what happens. She's going to lie about it. So just make sure you record her for your own benefit. So she gets there. She tries to get her son. He doesn't want to leave with her. And she said, I don't know what they told you, but I'm going to bring you back. He did not want to leave with her. His dad asked him, like, hey, do you want to go with your mother? He said no. So he said, fine, stay there. While all this is going on, his father was on the phone with the police, trying to get the police to come out there because she has come to his house on more than one occasion, threatening to fight him over something ridiculous. So while he's on the phone with the police and he's telling him, hey, stay here, while he's on the phone, she tries to pull him out the yard, and his dad says, hey, don't do that. And his stepmom, who's on the porch, even says, hey, don't do that. And all of a sudden, she threatens to kill his wife. So then a commotion happens. My oldest son's stepmother's sister told him to go in the house because all the commotion started. And at that point, his father became irate. His father told her to get out of his yard. She didn't want to listen. He yelled at her to get out of his yard. She still didn't want to listen. And she did not get out of his yard on her own will. Her friend was there and had to pull her out the yard. Eventually, the police arrived. And when the police got there, they assessed the situation and they determined that my son was to stay with his father. And they made her leave. When she left his house, she did not come to my house. She went down to the Norfolk police station, filed another protective order against me and now him. Now she done changed the story up, saying now that I forced her out of the house at gunpoint and that she feels that I'm a threat to the children, and is now saying that her oldest son's father pushed her out the yard. A few days later, she goes down to Portsmouth and files a show cause against him, saying that he pushed her out the yard, causing her physical harm. And then she goes back to Norfolk again, this time saying that I beat her with the gun. This is when I seen that the court system just goes by what somebody says. And then they came and put me out my house and took my kids from me without talking to me, without going to Suffolk and asking what happened, because what she told Norfolk ain't what she told North Carolina and ain't what she told Suffolk. And Suffolk was here, and if I had did any of things she said that I did from the Norfolk and North Carolina one, the Suffolk police could have cleared up and said there is no way this man beat her with a gun and her not have any marks. That's that's pretty much the basis of what started the Suffolk wrongful conviction, the protective order in North Carolina, the protective order in Norfolk, all stem from the same incident of something that didn't happen. And like I said, nobody wanted to hear me out.